Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Life Administration Podcast. My name is Ryan Taylor, and with me, as always,
Leslie Loftus. Good afternoon, or morning, or whenever you're listening to
whenever you're listening to this.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're recording it in the afternoon.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for being here. We are talking about honestly, I think this is a fun topic.
Okay, cool.
I do. It's your first place, your first abode.
So yeah, you've flown the nest, left university, whichever or both of those. And this, usually it's an apartment, but first apartment, first place.
So let me tee this up. So if you know, and you should know, I'm a gamer, right?
Uh-huh.
Ryan's a gamer. And I have talked about in previous episodes me trying to get new graphics cards. Couldn't get new graphics cards because they're just pandemic. Everything is sold out everywhere. People are scalping them. Anyway, fun story. So on Monday, I had to do a cloning thing for my pastor. We were taking his old laptop, we're cloning it to a new one. So there's no sort of updating or anything. Imagine when you update your phone, right? When you get a new phone, it pulls from iCloud, everything's the same, right? Awesome, wonderful. Same kind of thing, but for laptops. But I needed this enclosure piece. I go on Best Buy, not there. Out. I go to Micro Center. They have one, and I'm thinking, I was struggling for time already this day. And now I got to make the trip out there and come back. He needs it for tomorrow morning. I kind of said that I could do this. So I need to get it done. Go out to Micro Center and they have these tags all along the side of the building, because what happens is people are literally going there in the morning, getting in line every day.
Oh, and so leaving a Post-it note tag.
Right.
Saying I'm in this spot.
Yeah. Well, what you do is that you take your phone and you scan your number. Right. So you scan. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just all the way down the side of the building. So when you get in line, if you're 27, you scan the 27th one.
Right.
And you're right. So, okay, cool. I go inside and I get this enclosure. And I think to myself, it's like playing the lottery. You go, wouldn't it be something if I just walked back there and there was a new graphics card? Wouldn't that be something? So I bypassed the area to do the pickup because I ordered it online. There was only one left. I wanted to make sure that no one snagged it. I walk back there and the guy's opening a box right there. And I say to him, tell me you are not opening up new graphics cards right now. Are you serious? And he goes, I'm serious as a heart attack.
Excellent.
And I said, I'll take it. Right. I walked out of there brand new. My buddy ordered one in October
and still hasn't gotten it
yet. And I walked right into Micro Center. So it's an amazing thing. And so the reason I'm talking about this
I'm getting ready. I'm usually I can follow your analogies. I don't quite get that one for this one.
Okay.
Great story, though. Fabulous story.
Yeah, it was a fabulous story, right? I was chalk one up for the good guys. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm not scalping it or anything.
It's like finding a 50 in your coat pocket after the winter.
Most people, what's happening now is that you go and you buy, if you get your hands on one, you then immediately go to eBay and sell it because you can sell it for 2.5 times what you actually bought it for, right? It's already in my computer.
Right.
But I'm not doing that. I need it for work, honestly. So anyway, long story short is that a lot of times when you're playing games and you're a gamer, you start off at level 1, right? You start the story, you're weak, you're feeble, you're level 1. And then you have to go out and you do quests and you gain experience and you do all of these things that by the end of the game.
Link finds a sword, yes.
Right.
Exactly.
By the end of the game, you're like the ultimate hero and you've got all the things. But it took you 40, 60, 80 hours of game time to get there. When you move into your first place, you are level 1 as an adult.
Got it.
You're a level 1.
Okay, now I like it.
Right. It took the turnaround to get you there, but you're level 1. And so I think the overarching piece of this is that don't pretend you're level 15. Don't pretend you're level 20 because
we're gonna use that analogy now. You're right. This is a perfect analogy for this episode. Don't pretend you're level 15 when you're level 1.
Yeah, right. There's you can't do it. You don't have the resources. You don't have the time, the experience to say this is exactly what I need to do. You've probably never set a concrete budget for yourself on how to live and like what expenses.
I believe that's episode 4.
Yeah. So. You probably never gone in to a bathroom and said, well, I need some towels and, get some soap and I'm good to go. Right. And it's like, well, no, you're not good to go. You need to get these other things too. But at the same time, look at me digging the.
Yeah, that was well done. Well done.
You have to get these other things too. So it's really about prioritizing, understanding where you are in the journey, and then slowly level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, the whole deal. So
exactly
that's how I sort of see this. So keep that analogy in mind as you're thinking about
talking through all of this stuff. Yes.
So that's my intro.
That was an excellent intro.
Book it. Good segue. The whole thing. Take it away, Leslie.
Excellent. So, around here, we like to talk about planning. So before you get the first place, I want you to think through it. Like, what do you actually need? What are your priorities? And then we're going to talk a little bit here about, okay, there's the joke in real estate. What's the most important thing in real estate? Location, location, location. It's the 3 most important things. Okay. That is still true, but it's true in a slightly different way now, because now location used to be about, say, what's your commute to your new workplace?
Yep.
That's a little different now. Now your location might be about accessibility to outdoors and ability to get into your office, say 2 or 3 days a week. Right. I mean, obviously you're going to need to look at your own situation, what job you've gotten, all this kind of stuff to sort of figure this out. But location's going to be a big one in there. I think the analysis of how people go about the location question has changed and will continue to change. It'll be a lot more, there'll be some more space and some more outdoor space, which gets us to the next thing. Okay. A lot of times when you have your first place, you've got roommates and stuff like that. As we have all learned from the pandemic, this didn't used to be a big deal. Now it is. No matter what you need to the place needs to have options for individual space for each person. I don't necessarily mean a full room or anything, but, because y'all can still share the same bedroom or something, but let's just call it an apartment because everybody their first place is going to be an apartment. If there's 3 of you living in it, there needs to be 3 workspaces.
Right.
Right. And you might be able to modify one in the kitchen and one over here and one in the bedroom. Like they don't have to be dedicated spaces. They can be swing spaces. That's my favorite thing, is talking about swing spaces. We don't necessarily need any space in your home to be a single use with except maybe the working parts of the kitchen. You're not really going to do anything else on the range,
right?
Unless maybe you're into candle making or something, right? But most of your spaces can be adaptable spaces, but then you need to think through, okay, so if we're all at home and all of us are on our work calls, do we have enough space that we can actually not be totally annoying each other and backfeeding each other's mics and such like that, right? So big consideration that didn't used to be that I think is now going to be much more overriding. Can you get the individual space for each occupant? Can you have an outdoor option? And you don't necessarily need an outdoor option like, an apartment with, nice grounds or something like that. But, a park 2 blocks away, or will you live in a city that has lots of outdoor trails and stuff like that? So, you only need to walk a couple of blocks and then you're there. Or you decide, I want to live a little bit more rural, a little bit more out because I want to have the outdoor options, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, so these are some of the big stuff that we're talking about here. Next thing you need, kitchen entertaining, because no matter what, and certainly if you're a listener of this show, I'm going to say you need to start cooking and all that kind of stuff, just to get your basic skills going. We're definitely going to talk about, you want to have some sort of entertainment. You want to be able to eventually have people over for Super Bowl parties. Sorry, we're recording this the Thursday before the Super Bowl, when sadly there will probably be very few Super Bowl parties, but soon, we're all going to be gathering again soon.
I thought about throwing one. I was real close.
And it's not quite time yet. Not quite time yet.
Doesn't seem.
But we're getting closer. So when you're looking at a space, you need to think through your food preparation, serving, and entertaining space.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to roommates. you gotta get on the same page pretty early on when it
Absolutely.
comes to roommates. So I'm just thinking like, so Sean was my first roommate.
Mhm.
We were 19 years old, I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And boy, wouldn't it have been nice to have a podcast like this to listen to?
Yeah, well, and I believe back in the budgeting one, there was some point where we talked about in one of the money episodes about talking through money issues and how to pay the bills and stuff like that with roommates, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You want to get that stuff out front, but other things.
Like you're not trying to, it's a dated reference, but you're not trying to recreate the Odd Couple here. You know what I mean? Like you want people that live like you. Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you know that like clutter steals your joy, and that you're trying to have a, we're never saying the perfect place, but
Absolutely
we're saying
not.
something that's manageable, that's clean. You're hitting the bathroom and all those sorts of things.
You don't dread coming back home at the end of the day,
right?
You want to walk into your place and be like relieved. Okay, I'm home. Now I can relax.
Yeah, exactly. You want to. When you're going home and you've had a tough day, like you want to be looking forward to seeing your roommate,
right?
And to be able to say like, oh yeah, these things happened to me today. What happened to you? Right? Like that situation, especially first roommates, and I mean, I have a bias here, but that first roommate turned into my friend of 25 years at this point, and best friends, right? Because we went through all of these stumbling blocks of
all of these older growing pains together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we always have that in common. We can always reference the first party that we ever threw that we didn't cook the chicken wings all the way through. And then I went out onto the patio to find my workspace. And instead, like, I tasted the chicken wings again outside, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right?
Forget it.
If you get it, right? I'm trying to paint it in Technicolor, but I had to go outside, boom, and then come back in. It was
excellent
rough.
party time.
Right. So,
undercooked chicken wings. Awesome, guys.
Very good.
Yeah, you totally needed the podcast.
Is it, I remember eating it. Is it supposed to be pink? I mean, yeah, it's juicy, right? Critical error.
Yeah.
So, but you have to have that compatibility, because if you don't, what happens is all of these other things that we're talking about, we're going to get
more difficult.
Yeah, we're going to talk about furnishings, scheduling, all of that sorts of stuff. Typically if something happens to you, like your car or you're an emergency, like they're going to be the first person that you call because they have access to all of like your things. Right. So you want to make sure that relationship is solid, and it's okay to say no to people that maybe want to get a place with you because you're awesome, right? You listen I listen to the LA Life Administration podcast, right? I know what's going on here, and
nice
so
pitch.
people are wanting to hang out, and they're wanting to have a good time and roommate with you, but that might not be the right thing. So you're entering into a relationship with somebody, and you got to know that,
and it's probably the first non-family extra complicated one that you're going to have.
Yeah, right. This is not college. This is not like, oh, this is the dorm I'm in. This is the house I'm in. Like, this is just how it is. Like, this is a big deal. So I just want to say that so people have the right mindset of you are most likely going to have a partner, and I would encourage you to, because it is
so much
cheaper. It's
so much more efficient. Yeah,
because the goal of an apartment should be to get out of the apartment, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. I don't know of anybody whose first apartment remained an apartment of theirs for more than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, you're starting out with a first job at an entry level position. You're getting what you can afford. You may not be in the college town or the hometown that you were originally in, so let's say you're moving somewhere that you haven't lived before. Well, first of all, at the end of the first year, you get a little bit of a raise. You can afford something else. And then, you know what? You've now lived in the city for a year. And so you actually know you'd really rather be over in that neighborhood. Like, it's one of the reasons apartment leases only go like 9 to 12 months anyway.
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, I would recommend probably for your first apartment and stuff, unless you get a really excellent deal. And I mean, really good, only sign 12 months.
Yeah. There's no reason to sign more than that.
Right.
There's not that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
no.
Don't. You don't need to.
12 months.
Right.
The last piece of advice that I want to give when it comes to having a roommate is that you don't have a roommate that you work with.
I can, having lived at some of the offices that I've, like the office was run out of the home that I live. Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
You just, even if
You're besties,
you never get away from work. Work is always the topic of conversation. It's hard to rest. It's hard to relax. Even if you're like, if you're working.
Heaven forbid, if you end up with some problem at home or some problem at work, it's going to carry over into the other space.
Just don't. So like, you don't date the girl in the apartment next door or guy that's next door, and don't live with somebody you work with. Just trust me on these things. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to have to trust you on the dating one.
Just believe me when I tell you that you do not want to you don't want someone that is in these other areas of your life have such intimate access to your living space. That's what I'm saying.
There you go.
Cool. Let's get back to the stuff that we need.
Okay. Well, the next stuff that you need is really, you need to think through situational things like, do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Is this a particularly cold place or a particularly wet place where you would need all sorts of gear 9 months out of the year? So if you're living in a cold climate in Minnesota, yes, somewhere near the door where you come in, you're going to want some closet or space for a coat rack or what, because for a significant portion of the year, there's going to be wellies and there's going to be big, heavy coats and stuff like. So think through, go and listen to the early on general household management one about the zones and stuff, and kind of think through some of this. Now, luckily, with some of these client and regional or climate and regional things, apartments in Texas are built slightly differently than apartments in Minnesota for this exact reason, right? Still, be mindful of it, watch for it, think through the kind of things, the kind of lifestyle you're going to have in this locale, and make sure that that the space can accommodate you.
Yeah.
If you live on the California coast and, you're going to have bikes and surfboards, then somewhere in all of this, we need to have something for bikes and surfboards. And this I think is true. We're seeing a lot of data coming in post-pandemic about public transportation, not nearly as popular. People aren't as comfortable with it, don't know how much that's going to go back. So you might need to look more into parking.
Right.
Which also could be it could be mitigated on the other side of, well, I don't need to commute in every day. So actually, maybe my roommate and I, maybe we could share a car.
Right.
All right. So we don't actually need 2 cars and 2 parking spaces. We could get 1 parking space, or we could do one of those rides. Those seem to be coming up. Anyway, things are twisting and changing a little bit now, specifically around the commute and around how we spend our time at home. So start thinking through those when you're getting your first apartments now.
Yeah. And remember, as we're talking through the stuff that you need, we're talking about location, having an outdoor option, your kitchen, you're like, remember, you're level 1. Like you're level 1.
Right. Do not worry about Pinterest picture perfection.
Yeah.
Right.
You're level 1. And guess what? Everybody was level 1 at some point. Everyone had to start the journey. Now, granted, there are, maybe your friend has unbelievably rich parents and they like whatever. That's
they went and furnished the whole apartment or whatever. Well, promise there might have been some regret in that because you don't know how to. But we'll get into that in a second because you don't know how to take care of this stuff anyway.
Right, exactly. So just remember you're at level 1, and there are. What's the guy?
You need the bones of the space there, but you don't need all of the bells and whistles.
Yeah, I want to say it. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but the triangle of needs. It's like Maslow.
No, I vaguely remember this, but yeah.
But anyway, the point is, there's this. If any psychology class will tell you that there's a structure of like, here are the things that you need to survive, right? And so you're at the top. You're at the top of the pyramid. Your food, your water. I have a place to sleep. Okay, cool. And
shelter, clothes.
Yeah, let's sort of like, then we can start amping it up, right? You don't need to go to Crate and Barrel and be like, I need the
best sectional sofa.
Right. And I need to have this cookware and I need no, just stop, because those decisions that you're making in your first place have repercussions later on down the line. Like, this should be a time to be like, gathering your nuts. Right?
We're going to get on there on furnishing in just a second.
So we're going to be gathering our nuts. So I mean, is there any other things that you like that you can think of for stuff that you need sort of right out of the bat?
The other one I'd think of is look for a place that kind of has some community feel to it.
Yeah.
Like if nobody at the apartment complex is talking to each other and it's
yeah. No,
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things we're trying to build, especially since we've just been in a dark place where we couldn't have as much community. It matters who your next door neighbor is.
Yeah.
I totally get his point about maybe not date that person.
Right. but like it's okay to be friends and hang out and like, hey, come on over.
And you want a place that's open to it. I mean, if the place is, locked up like Alcatraz and doomy and gloomy, move on.
Yeah. And think about
personality matters.
Yeah. And demographics too, right? Like if this is, if this is an apartment complex that like, and it's not disrespect to like, divorced moms or dads, but like, this is where this is the apartment complex where all the dads live that are divorced. And, you're 20 something or, you walk in and you're like, where's the party at? And there's just a bunch of dads or just a bunch of moms. Like that sort of stuff matters. Like you want to fit in. You want your place to have the same things that you have, right? So if you're in the 20, like I remember.
Yeah. And a matter of fact, I'd say it'd be better if you find one of those places that has diversity of all sorts of it. So they've got everything from the dads that have their kids every other weekend to a couple of retirees to a couple of people in your, that's the best. Yeah. But the next one is then to have them in your, in general, your age and stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I would also recommend, this is a free service, but there are people called apartment locators.
Yes.
That have tons of information on the community, what kind of people live there, all that sort of stuff. So I would, instead of just like going online and using like apartments.com, I would say like, go find one of these folks. Doesn't cost you anything. They get a little kickback from the apartment place that you rent from. So everybody sorts of wins. You get to leverage their knowledge and they get a little something. So think about that while you're in your search for your apartment.
There you go.
Cool.
But those are kind of the basics that you need to look out for.
Level 1, kids. Level 1. Just
notice I didn't say things like age of the apartment building, apartment building or something like that. Not that functional apartment building, you want to see clean, you want to see well maintained, but generally couldn't care less if it was 30 years old or 3 years old. And because you can get new stuff that's built like crap. You can get old stuff that was built to last and has great bones. But that mostly the aesthetic stuff matters less, especially for first places.
I mean, I know that
as you move up into the levels, it'll matter a little more.
I know it's a long time ago, but I can remember when Sean and I are looking for our first apartment, it was like, hey, we were value driven consumers, right? So we didn't want the bottom of the barrel. But we certainly didn't want, luxury apartments with all of we got all these beautiful appliances and we had, right? Because you're paying for that in your monthly rent. So we sort of settled on, I think it was like, I want to say like $650 or $700 a month, between the two of us, we could split that off. And it was a place that we could, gather resources for later on down the line. So don't your first one. Don't get sucked into it. And now if you're living on your own, you want to upscale into something, that's a different conversation.
But part of it is if you'll notice, you'll hear a theme and stuff that we're going through. We want you to kind of learn what your own limits are. And it's a little bit learning how to set a budget, everything. But the first time when you're graduating from school and you feel like, oh my gosh, now I'm getting a paycheck for a real job and I got a good job coming out of college, just hypothetically, it feels like you have a ton of money at your disposal. Of course, you haven't started paying off loans. You haven't started paying taxes on your own for the most part. There's a lot of surprises that come in there. And and you didn't really realize, you estimated food costs, but you kind of underestimated them. And you actually do need a slightly better wardrobe than what you planned on, So there's other things that come up, but you went and you got the fancy place because it feels like I'm on my own. I'm an adult.
Look at these countertops.
Yes, exactly.
My fridge and my microwave, they match.
Get it out. Yeah. Part of going a little bit more for the value at the beginning is you can learn some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And there'll be plenty of time for that way later.
Exactly. When you get to for goodness sake, when you get to level 2,
Right.
there's some time to start adding that
Right.
in.
Exactly.
But level 1, when you're first trying it out, don't go fancy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason.
No, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about the essentials.
Right.
Sleeping, cooking, eating, lounging, storage.
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. Those are the essential furnishings you need. You need
Mhm.
to have somewhere to sleep. You need to have stuff to cook on. You need to have stuff to eat on. And you need, things like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sofa, but, relaxing furniture and stuff, depending on also on how much the apartment has in the way of closets and stuff. You need furniture to store things. Okay. That covers most of your basic furniture, and you probably don't need a ton of it yet. Also, when I'm saying stuff like sleeping, I'm including subcategories of things like bed linen. So
Right.
it's not just the bed, it's
Right.
also the sheets and the pillows. Yeah.
Which doesn't need to be 800 thread count your first
not,
time out.
Not your first go around. I mean,
No.
if somebody's gifted those to you, well, brilliant, love
fantastic.
it, kiss it, go for it.
Otherwise, get comfortable on 200 thread count
Right.
sandpaper.
Because here's the thing, this is really going to be the first time that you're truly, most likely the first time that you're really doing your own laundry and everything else. Cleaning all your stuff. Well, that gets into the next one here. Go for some, get old stuff, hand me down, but I'll get to that in just a second. The other essential you need is cleaning linens and for you and your stuff, like towels. You're growing up in your parents' house and well, towels were just in the bathroom. You actually had, it's one of those things that you're like, oh, shoot, I hadn't actually thought of that, but you have to prepare and you have to get it. There's
always a rag underneath the sink. Where did that rag come from? Well, it came from this t-shirt that I cut up 6 years ago. And that's, you know what I mean? That's what happens. Just looping back to the essentials real quick. If you have a lead time, I would really recommend that you shop consignment stores, that you would go to yard sales, where you can get some time to accumulate some of this stuff. Again, Sean and I as the example, our first couch was blue and pink and hideous, but comfortable. And so we picked it up. One was big old sectional. It was like $150. It was
that was cheap even for them.
Right.
Yeah.
It was big. This is where you sat. There was, we didn't have any other chairs or anything. It was this is where you go and sit. And then we put a, $25 cover over it and bang, we were good to go. You know what I mean? So it's we got one of the bigger purchases we got from our consignment store. I got a futon from a yard sale, $20. Bang, got the futon, whole mattress and everything. Slept on that for the first year. Now, paid a price for the futon with the sleeping, but that's a part of it. That's just how it goes. You're not getting the Tempur-Pedic mattress, right? That's level 50. You're at level 1.
And here, real quick, I'll tell you 2 reasons why you're not getting the Tempur-Pedic mattress. 1, it's expensive. Okay.
Right.
And you just don't have the budget for it yet.
No.
Right. 2, you're going to move a bunch of times. Do you know how heavy those things are?
Yes.
Futons are ridiculously easier to move. Your cheapo mattress that you had growing up, because that's actually the first place I would look. Hand-me-downs.
Yes.
So does your mom have an extra set of dishes?
Yes.
That, okay, here guys, y'all can have that. Cookware. I mean, you will find aunts, uncles, parents, oh my gosh, you know what? Because you don't actually need a ton of it at the beginning, especially if you're just learning to cook. They'll have, okay, I've got a frying pan, you can put together by, hitting up family members who many times will be happy to offload some stuff that they don't really use that much anymore. Wing back. Oh, I have 2 wing chairs downstairs. One was Jim's grandmother's, one was my mother's. Of course, they were much older, and we had to rework one, we had to restuff one a bit. And they have both been reupholstered twice in the 20 years that we've had them. One because, kids and dogs. Let's just leave it at that.
What happened? Kids and dogs?
Kids and dogs. Exactly.
That can just be the answer for every problem, honestly, at this point.
Honestly can. But yeah, a lot of that kind of furniture, especially if, somebody has, say, a nice Camelback, so whatever, some of the traditional line furniture heck, sometimes that's hard to find these days. One of the problems with furniture these days, modern furniture, is it tends to be very large scale. And so it's hard to fit into normal size houses, much less apartments. So yeah, if your Aunt Petunia has a nice English roll arm sofa, I mean, it can be covered hideously. First of all, a $25 slipcover will solve that problem for a couple of years and you won't care. And then afterwards, you have a really nice sofa that when you do have the funds to, you know what, I want to do it nicely and I want to pick out my own upholstery and stuff like that. The sofa still works.
Right.
Like, I mean,
you can still sit on it.
Right. But, you got it for free from your Aunt Petunia. You paid $25 to, cover it up for a few years. And now you have the $1,200 to get it reupholstered or whatever it is. So go through the hand-me-down stuff first. You will be surprised at how many family, maybe your next door neighbor's like, you know what, we're getting rid of this patio set. Well, actually that patio set will just work just fine as basic kitchen furniture for you until you have time to actually buy a kitchen table.
That's right.
That's
right.
Another trick I suggest is, go get, say, a folding card table and folding chairs. Those will work great for a kitchen table for a while. They're not that expensive and they're still usable later on. Cause now you've gone off a couple of years later and you've actually bought a nicer kitchen set, but you know what? You have poker night. So
exactly.
It folds up the 4 chairs and the one table, the 5 pieces fold. Now you got an extra poker table when buddies come over. Right. Or if you bought a really nice kitchen table and you don't want poker chips flying all over it, cause some people don't, because they scratch it up and stuff like that. Okay, well, now you got a game. So there's all sorts of stuff like that you can think ahead and you can kind of layer in. Okay, I'm going to use this temporarily. So I'm going to take my neighbor's patio set. I'm going to use it as a kitchenette. And then, 2 apartments from now, when I'm actually in a slightly nicer place, or maybe I've even, decided, you know what, I'm going to get on the house ladder and I'm going to buy my first place. Now I'm also going to buy a kitchenette set. Well, now I have a patio furniture to start. We did gardening in the last episode. And so now I already have the little patio set that I can stick out there until I have time to later on replace that.
Yes.
Let
me tell you the gold mine. Okay. This is top secret information.
And then I'd hit the thrift stores, by the way. But okay, gold mine, go for it.
Top secret information. You want to find people in your life that have moved in the last 6 months.
Honestly. Yep.
Right. You know where I'm going with this because people go into a new space. This worked. That didn't work. Maybe they're level 15, level 20, level 25 or something.
And so they're giving you level 10 stuff that doesn't work in their level 15 space.
Yes.
So you get some nice stuff that's way above level 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they don't have space for it.
Right. And you're helping them out by taking it away.
And it's in the family or they know you or whatever. So anyone that's moved in the past 6 months or so, that's someone, hey, I'm going to a new place. I know you just moved. Do you have any stuff that you want to get rid of? That sort of thing. And then go to town. Just get the goods.
Get the good stuff.
Get the goods.
All right.
Yeah, we love free here.
Since we're talking about hand-me-downs, thrift shops, neighbors, all this kind of stuff, we got a few parameters of things too, because you don't want to just take everything. Okay. Needs to be clean or cleanable.
You might not get it clean.
Right. You might not get it right. You might not get it clean, but you want to make sure it's cleanable. Like, say it's, a patio chair that's covered with some grime and stuff like that. Well, hit it with a power washer for 10 minutes and it'll be pristine and peach keen. Yeah. Right. Clean or cleanable and functional.
Yeah.
Broken doesn't do every once in a while. It's broke, but okay, you happen to be handy and you can fix that, or it's broken in a way that doesn't matter to you. Okay. Kind of. That one, every once in a while you can finesse, but for the most part, you don't need to be taking in somebody else's broken. Like that doesn't actually help. Even at level 1, broken doesn't help you that much.
Yeah, and I think too, you're in a tough spot because you're at level 1, so you don't necessarily want to say no to things. Like if you go to someone and they're like, hey, what do you have hanging out that you want to part with, or I'm moving to a new spot, and they're like, we have these 75 things, right? And you might want 15 of them. You have to, there's a little bit of etiquette involved here.
Right. Because you can't say, oh, well, I'm just going to come and I pick the hodge.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to take all 75 things and you're just going to get them to Goodwill yourself.
Right.
Exactly. Or trash them yourself. Because sometimes people actually need that.
Yes.
that help. They can't actually do it themselves.
Right.
So they've now given it to you.
So
And you can,
I say you got to take the whole lot.
Yeah.
Right? You got to take the good with the bad. If you see some stuff in there that you're really excited about, that's going to make sense for you in your living space, then go for it. And if there's some other stuff in there, like it just happened with one of my friends that moved out of country, it's like I got a bunch of things from them, and like one of the things was, I don't know, like a toaster oven. It's like,
Right.
dude, I'm not, but
right.
to the Goodwill. Right. But at the same time, they had a brand new grill that they didn't want to take overseas. And they're like, we don't have any, what can we do with this grill? And I'm
You're like, put it in my backyard.
Yeah, I'll it's a grill. It's been a year old. I mean, some of the
These
things
are like level 10
out.
exchanges because, now we're in houses and, fancy grills and stuff like that. Right?
But the point stands of, they're at a different level than I was, and they were trying to get rid of some stuff. And I'm always like, everyone knows that I don't like to spend money here, right? I am cheap.
Jim replaced, remember, this was like 2 years ago, Jim replaced his screens downstairs in the... Right. Yeah. And so we had some large screens, better yet, that were touch screens that he didn't want to... They were perfectly fine, but he didn't actually end up using the touch screens on the...
Guess
guy with the toddler does.
Yeah.
Because she has all... I mean,
she has like kids, ABC Learning on there, and that's a touchscreen thing. Yep. And so she was doing it on an iPad, which honestly like just wasn't big enough to really correctly write in letters or do the things, or like it wasn't powerful enough. The program would lag. And I said, hey, we'll get this screen. I'll plug it into my computer upstairs. I'll turn it on. And I just literally leave that program upstairs. And so next to my desk on the left-hand side is her desk with her chair. She comes and
she works with Daddy.
And she comes and works with Daddy and does work while I'm doing work. Right.
That's awesome.
Right. But a perfect example. All I needed to do was find like a Dell driver to make sure that it worked, and bang, we were off to the races. So yeah, awesome. Very, very cool. Good tips there. Write all of those down. Those are very important. I wish someone would have told me those things, because instead I was too busy at Target filling my kitchen with wooden spatulas when I just honestly didn't need to do that. But I could have asked, I could have gotten a plastic. And another thing. When you're first moving out, plasticware in the sense of like, you don't need, like, look at these beautiful glasses here, right? You don't need this.
No.
And if you're not watching, I'm holding up a very beautiful glass right now.
That my daughter gave me a new glass set. I do have too many glass sets, but I like glasses and kitchenware, and we entertain all the time, and we use them. And my daughter gave it to me for Christmas, but they're beautiful. But yes, this is not a level 1 thing, not even close.
Yeah, right. But a level 1 thing, instead of like even not this. Even just a glass, right? Like you can make do in the beginning with like reusable plastic cups. So like, like they're thick and they're tall and they're good and they're cheap, right? You can use that for your plates too.
I'm almost certain that everybody's parents or an aunt or an uncle or somebody has, a set of, oh gosh, we don't use these cups anymore. Like, because everybody over time accumulates them. So if you find somebody that's like 10 years past you in the stage, they're going to have some cups and coffee cups that they don't need anymore. There you go.
Yeah. So just like your primary focus should just be like, I need to fill this place up with good, tangible, reusable, future-proofed items.
Yes.
That I can reuse later on.
By the way, when you move 5 times over the next 5 years, you're not going to cry that those cups got lost or those coffee cups got broken. Like,
right. Who cares?
Right. Who cares? It's not like you spend a lot of money on them. It's not like they have huge sentimental value. Also, it gives people lots of fodder for, somebody like me, like, oh, college student. Well, here, I get you a new cup and tea set coffee. I love stuff like that, right? It's kind of, you slowly build this stuff over time. But when you are at level 1, it's really about just function. Let's get the stuff in the place that you actually need to function.
Yes.
And then you see how you use it. You see what you use, what you don't use, how you live, how you cook, and how you entertain, how you use outdoor space. And then you can start to adapt your own building up to level 4, level 10, your own way.
Yeah. And you can do
and it makes it so much easier to move.
Yeah. And you can do things that can sort of spruce up your place that, for example, so like entertainment center, right? That's a big investment purchase, right? So if couch your living room, if couch is number 1, entertainment center at that time.
We still had tube TVs. So
Yes.
entertainment centers at that time were like huge, bulky bookshelf kind of things because they had to be deep. And now, of course, you don't need that.
Yeah, no, you don't.
I mean, I'm trying, this house is 1996 and I'm constantly trying to retrofit the entertainment centers that were built in because there's so much wasted space in the back.
Exactly. Like there's no use for it. But you can take, if you were having something like that, what we did is we took milk crates, we stacked them up, and then we put a tablecloth over it. Right. And so now it's like, it doesn't look the greatest, but it looks okay. It looks like
cinder blocks and plywood will do a lot.
Yeah.
And then also you have some time to figure out what kind of entertainment center you actually like.
Yeah, exactly. Do I want to put it on the wall? Do I want to put it on the ground? What is it? Right. So just, you can't be like subscribed to the theory. You should be subscribed to this podcast, but you should not be subscribed to the theory of that I have to have it look a certain way or feel a certain like no, you got to do what's best for you in that moment and try to be creative.
Okay. And I have a story here because I did this. Now I was, let's call it level 15. I had 2 kids at the time. I'm married 10 years. And Jim and I, we moved to London and we were only going to London for 6 to 12 months. Okay. That wasn't a joke at the time. That's what we actually thought. So we we actually kept our house here. We got a house sitter, and we got a flat in London, and we kind of told ourselves we were camping out. So I just sent some things. Since I had young children at the time, I only sent plastic plates over, so I got a set of plastic plates and stuff like that we would use for a while. I sent that over. I rented some furniture over there. But we didn't take a lot of stuff over, but I've been looking through catalogs for forever. And I was still, here we are at 10 years. I was still at the stage where we were slowly filtering out some of we had a card table that we were using as an entertainment center, and we ended up getting an armoire that we could actually write. So we were just at the stage where we were really flipping out some of that stuff and getting us, but I'm leaving that in the house in Houston. And I hadn't planned as much, like some of this advice that I tell you comes from the stage that I wish I'd planned out my own home a little bit like I'm recommending to you now beforehand, because it was a little bit hodgepodgey and I felt it was, and I'm sitting here constantly at the time. We didn't have Pinterest. We had catalogs and stuff. So you're looking through all the catalogs and it has a certain aesthetic to it. So I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity. So I went and I rented the furniture that had, at the time it was a crate and barrel kind of minimalist thing. And first of all, we ended up there for 5 years. Second, for the first 3 to 4 months, I loved this. I really, really loved it. It felt like every time I walked into my house, I felt like I was walking into a catalog. Right. And it was kind of neat. Around month 4, I'm like, I'm walking into a catalog. And then I was trying to warm it up and I ended up hating that aesthetic by the time we were done with this, because it looked pretty. It totally looked pretty.
But cold.
It was cold, and some of the stuff was too low to it was not as comfortable to sit in. It was too low and deep. There was all sorts of stuff. And there was stuff that I'd kind of learned and I hadn't realized I'd learned with my hodgepodgey things, but I was trying so hard to get a single aesthetic in it that I'd missed the lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Right. And so the cheat advice that I give here is kind of, okay, while you were pulling together your first stuff and you were getting just the essentials of, bed stuff and lounge stuff and kitchen stuff, kind of go for a minimalist aesthetic. Okay. One, because that's what use what you have. That you don't have a whole lot of stuff yet. I'm assuming you don't have a whole lot of artwork. Posters or whatever you have might be, just kind of hodgepodgey stuff from college and high school, and you've outgrown some of it already. Not to mention the fact framing is expensive. That just definitely should not be in your budget early on. There's no reason for that. Pay off debt, people. Don't frame things.
You're right.
Worry about that later.
Go get you a nice poster.
Right. So 1, do the minimalist aesthetic because that's what you can do. 2, you're going to learn whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And, if you do like it, well, bless you, run with it. I love it. If you don't, then okay, shoot. Then my next recommendation is to start to layer things in areas. Because let's say you have 2 roommates, and so you were in, and y'all can get a 3-bedroom apartment. So each of you has your own bedroom, and you've got a nice large living room, and a kitchen and stuff but you've got the minimalist stuff. So it is really hard when you only have a few essential furnishings to do much more than the minimalist aesthetic. Yeah. All right. And if you have, say, a collection, maybe y'all were college roommates too. And y'all like to go to various concerts. And so y'all have an assortment of concert posters. And so maybe y'all are just going to put those up on the wall. It is better to just go ahead and decide, you know what, we're going to do that on the entrance wall coming into the house, or we're going to do it on this wall over in the kitchen area or something. Like, gather the collection things. So if you decide you don't like the minimalist aesthetic and you want to build onto it in certain areas, cluster otherwise you're going to everything's going to look like random postage stamps all over the place. And you're going to be a little bit constantly dissatisfied with it because it just looks, unfinished. So concentrate on areas to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So leave your living room looking minimalist and say, you know what, we're going to turn the kitchen and the kitchenette into, we want that to be more homey cluttered.
Yeah.
And so now, start concentrating on that. It makes it easier to do. It makes it easier to see if you like that or how much of that you like, because everybody else, everybody's got their own level of what they like of function. I call that stuff functional clutter. So when you've got in your kitchen, say, and you've got the utensil pot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That is clutter.
Yep.
But it's totally functional. It's one storage clutter.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing than just, I've got hodgepodgey stuff and silk plants and stuff all over my kitchen counters and I can't use them. That was a thing for a while back in the 90s. It was the huge thing because you didn't move. For some reason, it was the way. You didn't have kitchen cabinets that went all the way up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so you had, like a 2-foot gap and maybe you put lights up there. But the thing was to put silk plants up there. That's just what.
Because you never had to water them.
You never had to water them. And it was supposed to look, it looked out of place. And silk plants for them. I'm actually not a huge fan of fake greenery because it's a dust collector.
I was going to say.
It's a dust collector. And it's hard to clean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It looks ugly. Awesome. Mm-hmm. What else? I love that. I actually do want to piggyback on your last point because when you're thinking about sections, you might be thinking, well, I actually don't want to do the entryway. I actually do want to do the living room. Let me advise against that.
Okay.
And the reason why, if you want to do a bigger space, let's go like kitchens. Kitchens are pretty highly adaptable in the thing. Like, if you want to have, like in our kitchen, we have like the red chef theme, like, the funny French chef that's always like all over the stuff, right?
Got it. So,
like, that's kind of our deal, right? We like, it's funny, it's cool, it's whatever. It's like, I can take the stuff that we have in our kitchen right now, all of the mishmash, right? I'm not talking about the big things, but like all of that sort of stuff, I could go into just about any kitchen and put that up and it would be cool. It'd be fine. Like, it's going to, like, kitchen is a kitchen is a kitchen is a kitchen.
Especially when you're moving like apartments and they tend to be, they're done neutrally for exactly this reason, because somebody likes, blue and white, somebody likes red and orange and
Right. So then, you look at that, and same thing with the bathroom, right? You can kind of, sprucing up a bathroom is like a nice thing to do. But again, you can take everything that you had in that bathroom for the most part, unless you're moving into some, something really crazy and you have to paint or whatever. But for the most part, the rule applies. I can take my stuff in my bathroom I have right now, transport it into another bathroom. So like maybe the thing that holds your soap or your dispensary or where you put your toothbrushes or just all these sort of little knickknacks, right? That
the tray where you gather all of your everyday use toiletries.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like we
discussed this in the bathroom episode.
We sure did.
Okay.
So you have, whereas like a living room, that's a different thing. Right.
Yeah.
That sectional that you bought, that's really cool. Except in your new place, the room's backwards. So now the sectional is backwards. So now
you can't make it fit.
You can't make it fit. Right. So that doesn't work.
Another reason we recommend getting hodgepodge stuff, hand-me-downs from family members.
I bought an entertainment center. Boy, it fits so nicely right in this little alcove for my apartment. Well, guess what? Your next place, probably not going to have that. Right. So you want to be future-proofing your purchases. You don't want to just get things because for the right now, it looks great right now. It's like, cool, you have a nice living room for a year and then you're out of there, right? Like that's the reality. So,
and furniture like that is not quite as bad as cars in the sense that the most expensive thing you ever do with a new car is drive it off the lot.
Right.
But it is, so, let's throw it out there. So you spent $800 on this sectional, that now a year later, you're moving to a different place. Or let's give you 2 years later. 2 years later, you're moving to a different place and it's backwards. You're not going to get $800 for that sectional.
No.
It's a 2-year used sectional. Good luck getting $200 for it.
Right. Exactly.
And that's if you've kept it in pristine condition, because that's another thing that we recommend using this hodgepodge. You don't know how to clean and maintain a lot of this stuff yet.
No.
Wood tables require their own thing. Upholstery, different kinds of upholstery require their own sort of cleaning stuff. By the way, we discussed that back in household management. And I even gave you down in the show notes there, you have some resources where you can find this information about how to clean different things. But the fact is, different things require. So if you learn that mistake on the couch that you got from Aunt Petunia that you were really planning on reupholstering in a year anyway, who cares? If you learn that mistake on the $800 sectional that you bought and you were planning on selling for $400, now maybe you'll get $50 because you put a big bleach stain on it or whatever it was.
It's an expensive lesson to learn.
Right. It's an expensive lesson to learn. So remember at the beginning, you're going to move around a lot and you have a large learning curve. That's one of the reasons you're at, or two different reasons you're at level 1.
Right.
Right.
And level 1's a great place to be.
Level 1 gives you a whole lot of freedom. Because let me tell you, I can't pack up this house.
No.
And have all of a sudden on a whim, I'm deciding I want to go somewhere else. Yeah. Your apartment that most of you, you could fit most of the stuff into a small U-Haul that you could drive yourself. That's freedom.
Yeah.
And by the way, you could pack it up in a day yourself. When we packed up this house to move in here, what was that? 3 days? We still had stuff left behind?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was an undertaking.
Right.
Whereas, for me in my early 20s.
Ryan was helping me with dog and kid maintenance during that whole shift. And that was me hiring a crew and 3 days.
Yeah.
So.
Whereas, I was in my early 20s and I would get a phone call saying like, congratulations, you're the new district manager of this area. It's in trouble. We need you to go fix it.
Right.
I mean, I could get the smallest U-Haul that they had, threw all my stuff in there. I was out of there in 1 day. Just like, I'm driving. I'll be there on Monday. Like, no problem. So there level
1 has some freedom to it.
It sure does. And there is this idea, if you can frame it up right, instead of looking at it like, boy, I can't wait to be level 15 and have all this sort of stuff, instead of, man, I'm starting my journey. Like, I get to make this whatever I want. If there was a time machine, I could go back to level 1 and just like say, okay, if I could go back to level 1 and say, listen to this podcast and then come back, I would literally travel back into the future. My house would be bigger. My couch would be cleaner. You know what I mean? Like all these things would, because they have these effects that last for a really, really long time. So, it's the old, when's the best time to plant a tree?
Right now.
Yeah. So
right now.
So you just do it.
Right.
Now.
And by the way, most of the stuff we've talked about here actually translates pretty well to like level 4 or 5 or something like that. Like if you're listening to this and you're on your second or third apartment, you're like, oh yeah, I would tell the level 1s that too. And by the way, I would probably agree with, and I can see how that's adaptable. And now I need to start maybe shifting, maybe, okay, I do know that I'm kind of stable in this job. So maybe 2-year leases or 3-year leases, or maybe it's time for me to start looking about, especially if you can get your student loans paid off. Mm-hmm. Maybe I start looking about getting on the property ladder.
All right. Did we do a podcast about that?
We did. We
did 2 actually, because it was so big.
We did 2. Yeah. So we did one on mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. We called it the home buying process.
The home buying process,
2,
and then the mortgage. Right.
It was so much. Anything else? Any closing thoughts?
I don't know. I'd be happy to hear questions on this one.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot. So I think it's a unique experience for everyone. We all have different things that we've gone through. So post down in the comments great advice, great tips. If there's anything that we missed or we didn't include, because we are a little bit removed, right? From it's been a while. So we're just kind of
honestly, this one was kind of an exercise. Okay. And I was trying to think of a few of my college age friends. I'm like, what do they need to do?
Right.
What do they need to do? So if I'm telling Rachel this, what would I tell her?
Right. Exactly. And there's a lot here. I mean, we covered, it's funny because our show notes are actually sort of on the smaller side, but just as we're talking, like these little memory triggers would happen, and I,
that's right.
oh yeah, that, and the chicken wings, and the right, and all that sort of stuff. Right? Oh my gosh. And you said one thing too. You said, "I'm giving you this advice because out of the some of the mistakes that I made, and I just want everyone to know that all of the advice that I give is all from the mistakes I made. I'm just a hot mess. That's why I'm here. So, in any case." Thank you so much for watching. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you can get podcasts, thumbs up, leave comments, do the things that are good. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, like button, and leave some comments. Again, we want to know. We want to interact and engage with you guys on this sort of stuff. So other than that, I've been Ryan Talon.
I've been Leslie Loftus.
You have been awesome. I brought it back. Y'all missed it, but now you know.
I'm so excited.
I got goosebumps from saying it. Take care, y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.